Hello, Chicago. This is Kira Macoun, and you are watching Chicago Corner. This is the Tuesday edition, which is why you're seeing my face. So get excited. We have a very, very fun show. Not really, no. I mean, I think the first conversation is going to be pretty fun. And then after that, I think the fun ends. I feel like I have this way of picking out stories that really can make you glum. And so, unfortunately, that is what the majority of the news in our world is, because that's what people tune into. So that's what we're talking about. But we're actually having a really interesting conversation to start the show off on mental health, the importance of mental health. As we all know, access to mental health. I have some questions about becoming a licensed therapist and kind of like what those hoops look like as well, because I think that it's really a big part of this conversation also. But before I get ahead of myself, because I always get very excited when I have an interview, because it's just an opportunity for me to sit back and learn and, ask questions as they come up, which is pretty easy for me. Let's be honest. But before I do all that, let's go ahead and welcome our co-hosts with the mosts, Mr. Jerry Vasilatos and Ed Heller. Come on in.
Hello.
Welcome to the party, pal.
That's right. Welcome to the party, you guys. What's that hat you're wearing, Jerry? Oh, nice.
He's on brand.
Totally on brand. How are you guys doing today?
Good. I thought we would be live streaming on Rokfin. We're not.
We're not?
No, I set everything up, and I still need to get some technical help on that, even though our page is set up. I thought I had everything set up properly for our live stream here to go there. Sorry, guys. Hopefully we'll have these technical glitches sorted out by Friday. You can still go over to our Rokfin, which is on Chicago Corner, and tip us if you'd like.
Weird.
I know. I'm seeing something streaming there, but
it says starting soon, but it's not starting.
Right. But here's this. I'm in my dashboard. So here, let me share with you guys really quickly.
All right, show us what's going on.
Okay, because it seems like something is right. Where are we here? So why isn't it going up there now? There it is. So yeah, it's streaming there. And I set up a live stream. I don't know why it's asking me to re-enter the information, but I don't want to screw around with it anymore. I'll just
hit the green button and see.
I got to re-upload a thumbnail. I don't want to do it while we're doing the show. I want to have it seamlessly, bang it, because the show's already started, Ed. That's the problem.
Nah, that's fine. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
It's our multi-streaming plethora of platforms is a work in progress, but we will get there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we're almost there. We've got other. No, don't touch it. I'm not touching it. Yeah.
Kit's backseat. No, first he goes, hit go live again button.
No, but Kit, what?
Don't touch it.
I'm not going to screw around with anything right now. We'll do it Friday. We'll do it live Friday. I did get some help from FaZe. Apparently, I may have done something wrong because I set up a live stream. It's linked with our server, our stream key. I uploaded a thumbnail. I scheduled us, and for whatever reason, Rokfin is not receiving that server or stream key as we set it up on StreamYard. So I don't want to waste anybody else.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Yeah, I don't know what he was saying either. That's so much technical jargon right now.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll get it figured out. I know you've been working really hard this last for a while now on getting that to be a reality. So we'll get it. And if there's I'm not a technical person, so I don't know how I can help. But if there's any way that I can,
no, you can't. I mean, we've got. I like I said, thought it was set up. I may have misunderstood something from FaZe. We'll get it figured out, and hopefully we'll be doing that Friday, because we really want to be able to direct people to our Rokfin channel, so we could avoid situations like we went through with last Friday's show, with getting a copyright strike for the 60 seconds of a song that was buried underneath a Lightfoot impression that almost got us a copyright strike. And if you look at last Friday's show, I give a special thanks to the quote-unquote copyright holder that doesn't understand what fair use means, especially when you transform something. But the sooner we can get over to Rokfin and hopefully train and guide our viewers to come view us over there, the less we got to deal with all this time-consuming nonsense that YouTube puts us through because of their algorithms automatically like causing problems for the content that we're sharing.
Yeah. Well, what we can tell you is that we do have a channel up on Rokfin. It's easy to find us. You just type in Chicago Corner.
Save it, everybody. Save the link.
Hit the follow on there so that the next time when we actually have the stream work, it'll tell you that it's live.
Right.
Very good.
In fact, while Kira continues, I will share it in the chat.
Yes, do that so people
I
can
will
find
do
us.
that.
Yeah, so we're actually having a conversation about mental health today, which is fitting because I feel like I hit a little bit of a mental health like spiral this last I got to say 5 days. It's been really, really rough. I was pretty down in the dumps on Friday. I think I cried most of the day. Just a lot of stuff going on in my head, stories about myself and about what I'm doing in life and all of that. So. And it's just kind of been the residue of it has kind of been sticking with me throughout the weekend and into today. So I was like, maybe this will work out real nice. It'll be a good way for me to channel this energy and talk with someone who works in the mental health field so that we can help and maybe guide people into the world of mental health because I know that for some, it is still stigmatized. And then for others, there's just a conversation in regards to a lack of access. And so I would like to touch on a lot of those topics and more with our guest today, who is Luis Diaz. He is a licensed clinical professional counselor. He has been involved in the mental health field for over 15 years, working in an array of settings, such as psychiatric hospitals, community mental health programs, health insurance, and counseling services. As a native Spanish speaker born and raised in Puerto Rico, he is passionate about working with the Spanish-speaking community as he has a unique ability to connect with them on language and cultural levels when addressing life issues. He specializes in treating anxiety disorders and mood disorders. Additionally, he works in the areas of trauma, gender identity, sexual orientation, stress, relationship problems, self-esteem, mindfulness, self-care, and culture shock. His goal is to help people understand the connection between their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors so that they can find relief in their lives and achieve their goals. Let's welcome Luis Diaz to our stream, everybody. Woo!
Hi, thank you for the amazing introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I'm so glad we could bring you on here to chat with us. And I have no idea. I mean, I have an array of questions that I could ask always. I always come prepared, right? But I have no idea where this conversation is going to take us. If you are willing to hold on to the reins and go with me on this ride.
I think I can do it. I mean, having been in therapy with people who just come up with their stories and then they come up with whatever is happening in their lives, I can't plan for that because I cannot think of all the scenarios that can happen to a person. So I think I can make it.
All right. Yeah, right on. Well, I'm going to dive right in with some of my first curiosities that just really came out of reading your bio and also chatting with you when we did a few weeks ago, several weeks ago, I think at this time, how time flies. But you said that you are born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I'm curious, has all of your mental health practice been inside of Chicago, or did you start in Puerto Rico and come over to the United States? What's your story around all that?
Yeah, sure. So the bulk of my experience has been the United States of America, specifically in Chicago area or Illinois, because I've been here for around 10 years now or more. No, wait, I moved here in 2009 and graduated in 2011. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the bulk is here, which we can go into it if needed. If not, that's fine. But in Puerto Rico, when I graduated from my bachelor's degree, part of the requirements was to find an internship. And the internship that I was placed into, I chose, was working at the psychiatric correctional hospital in the state, because my degree was in forensic psychology. I thought that's what I wanted, but things change in life. But that was my path was in it. So that's how my path started, and it was shocking when I was 18, just working at a correctional hospital. So these are people who are in the correctional system, and they were sent to that specific hospital. And I was there doing intakes with the supervisor and whatnot, and I learned a lot. It was because the people that went there had severe mental illnesses or conditions, I should say, and that was the hospital that was sent to. So I was seeing a lot of diagnoses and how they looked like in that specific setting, because depression and the topics that you get to talk about in a correctional setting, they vary from, for example, what I talked to with somebody in a private practice setting. So that was my experience there back home. But then here is all that wonderful introduction to talk about the other, because I did work for a psychiatric hospital here too in Illinois. And yeah, the nursing home that was also serving the chronically mentally ill. So that was here, and private practice has been here also as well. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to get an idea of like how, what your journey looked like when, as you were going through, learning how to be a therapist, right? Because I do think that where we're getting educated and the systems that we're growing up in and the culture inside of which we operate completely influence the way that we show up in our work and in our lives. And so I know that you touched a little bit on it in like in our conversations, but I am curious, could you speak to this idea that as someone who is in, Spanish speaking, you're Spanish speaking and you're inside of Spanish speaking cultures, why is that important when you're working with your specific clients?
Sure. A lot of it has to do with validation, right? Because I'm going to talk about from my own experiences. When I moved here, because I'm from Puerto Rico, and everybody who knows the history, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. We're not going to talk about how they are part of it, because that's a conversation for another time. But I was fortunate enough to go to private school, and all my classes were in English. The ones that were in Spanish were just what we call like the electives ones. That Spanish was in Spanish. History of Puerto Rico was in Spanish. Art, physical education, some of those. So the core, what you call them core classes, like your sciences, math, all of those were in English. So I grew up speaking two languages my whole life. So me thinking that, and then when I fast forward to it's time to go to, I decided to go to grad school. I was like, oh, it'll be easy enough. Let me just move to I've never been to a city, but how different can a city be from where I lived in San Juan? You'll be fine. Not the case. Because what I found and I experienced was a lot of cultural differences. Like one of my favorite stories that I like to tell, and it was extremely awkward. So back home, it's really part of the culture when if I don't know, for example, I don't know Jerry, I don't know Edit, and let's say I don't know you, Kira. If we were back home, it's customary that I shake, people who are perceived or male presenting, you shake hands with them. And depending but depends on the level of closeness, it will change. Because friends of mine that are really dear friends of mine, I give them hugs instead of just a handshake. And kind of like those examples of with women, it's customary to just approach them and kiss them on the cheek. In the United States, or at least in Chicago, not so much.
Can I share something on that note?
Yeah.
With a Mediterranean background and a very close family, my grandparents came over from Greece. Unless I really don't know you very well, it's so customary for us, even with men, to embrace each other.
Thank you.
Or even do this on the side of the cheek, because our families raised us this way. Generally, I would think in Latin families, in Mediterranean families, I guess it's just part of the culture. So it's interesting that you note that, because here in the United States, people can be very, very standoffish, and it's not an unhealthy thing to express affection. It's not always related to sexuality. Unfortunately, so many people make that attachment and get all bent out of shape. And it's like, sometimes I have to be very careful because I don't want to offend somebody. But if they know me, they know I've got a warm personality, and I kind of know them well enough. I feel comfortable with that. I just wish more people in our culture would understand how disarming and comfortable that can make people without the very standoffish, you're invading my personal space. Now, that said too, you got to be careful about it. You want to make sure that you respect other people's boundaries, but it is kind of like a fine line, I think.
Correct. It is a fine line, and especially when, again, at that point, we're talking about 2009. I wasn't taking that into consideration. Because again, in my mind, I'm part of the United States. I know English. I'll be fine. Again, go to my example, not so much. And people kind of approached me, and like rumors started saying that I was invading people's personal space, and they were putting me in this negative light already. And I was like, okay, so I guess I need to backtrack. And like, clearly it's not what I thought I was doing, because I was being friendly. I was like, okay, like everybody knows that. And then going back to your comment, Jerry, like, for example, my close family members, even if they're male, presenting or male, like for example, my dad, I kiss my dad on the cheek. I kiss one of my uncles and several of my uncles on the cheek. One of my best friends, who's been my best friend since I was in first grade, we kiss on the cheek. So I understand.
You do the same thing in Greek American culture. I mean, at least from my perspective, I'll always, my dad's 86 years old, and I'll always give him a kiss on the forehead when I see him when I'm leaving. You just want to make sure.
It's exactly.
It's very normal.
So I didn't have that. So then going back to your question, Kira, just that example alone, it can exacerbate to so many other consequences. In my perspective, in my experience, it was just some rumors that started in grad school, and thankfully they were addressed, and I stepped back fast. So I was like, okay, not doing this. Clearly not okay. Because I understood then, like what Jerry was saying, also like learning about personal space and how that's looked like, and how like socializing with other people looks like in this specific part of the country, because obviously we know that different parts of the country see this differently as well. So in therapy, we address specific things like that. That's why I mentioned that I do focus on culture shock, because I focus, and I made my kind of like my own mission, for lack of a better term, to like talk to people from the Latin and Hispanic community, because I know these nuances happen and they affect their lives. Because I felt horrible when I was told that, and then how everything was cascading.
Right.
And then I didn't have anyone to go to, because nobody was from my culture. So who am I going to like feel validated that what I was doing was not something wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
So those levels vary. So that's an example of why it's important to practice cultural humility, and understand that even in your own culture, you're not going to be an expert. Like, you won't know all the nuances of your own culture. So having that in mind, again, now this was years of practice and years of training to understand that. So I want to be able to talk again to that community in a therapeutic setting, because also therapy and talking about mental health issues in that part of the world, I want to specifically talk about Puerto Rico, is also taboo. So boys don't cry is a big one. There's a phrase in Spanish that basically translates like, you wash your dirty laundry at home. Basically, if something's happening, you just leave it at home. You don't talk to other people about that. And so all those nuances just can become like the basis of toxicity around this person's life, and not let them live to their full potential, where they want to 100%. Do, or they limit themselves to like try to because I also went to what I call my whitewashing phase, where I even try to like take away my accent. I even try to like emulate as much as I could the majority of the people who were white in grad school, because talking about access, a lot of people that look like me have access to that. And so it's like a bunch. Again, nuances, I think, is the best way to just say that is why it's important for me to provide this space for people that look like me.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, Speaking of that, we know that access to mental health, which I do want to touch on in the United States, can be difficult. But I want to talk a little bit first, because being that, like, I would tend to agree, it is important to have somebody who can relate to their client in a cultural way, in a linguistic way, just in a way that can actually like empathize in a real way, so that people are feeling validated in their sessions, right? But I also know, because my sister is a licensed therapist, that it is not an easy feat to become a licensed therapist. There is a lot of school, there is a lot of free work that y'all are doing.
The license exams. It's
yeah. I just know, like, the barriers to becoming, not that there shouldn't be certain like foundational, whatever, bars that you have to pass or whatever. But my experience of it was that it's something that's very difficult to obtain. And so can you see that barrier? And I mean, and you can expand on it as much as you want, but can you see that barrier getting in the way of creating more licensed therapists that could maybe help their communities in a way that is a lot more, I don't know, useful, valuable, workable? Talk a little bit on how the difficulty of getting in could be, very much is impacting communities and their comfort with getting mental health.
That is a really complex question, so I'm gonna try and
so I told you this was gonna go everywhere, right?
which is fine. I mean, I love talking. That's why I'm here, right? So we're good. So, and I'm a therapist, so I'm talking every day. I just want to go back a little bit to because you mentioned language, and that is something that I did not address when I was answering your first question. And language is also really important, and I'm gonna use again Spanish as an example. And I use this in my sessions as well. Like, when you talk about loving someone in English, you only have that word. Like, and you can say, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. But the same way that you say I love you to, let's say, a romantic partner, it's not the same I love you when you're telling your sister or your friend or your sibling or other. There's levels, right? In Spanish, we have different words for that love. Like, you can say te amo, for example. That means like I'm in love with you, but like, romantically sometimes. You can also use that for a friend, but you won't say, oh, I love you. You won't say te amo to like an acquaintance or like another close person that you're not, that much involved with. Let's say, or you don't see them that much. You love them, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm in love with you. So you wouldn't say, oh, te amo. Like, you would say, oh, te quiero, or te aprecio. And it's really interesting, again, how like that language also affects sessions, because what you were saying, I give a space to be able to say it in their way, in a way that they feel that they're being able to like get that out, and they don't have to explain it, because in this case, I will get it. It's like, oh yeah, there's levels, I understand that, versus having a therapist from a different culture who doesn't necessarily know the nuances of language that way. To answer the questions about the licensing and how that can create a barrier, the answer is yes, because most of these tests, if not all the things, I don't know all licensing exams in the whole country, but what I can say is that a lot of these tests that we have to take, even in school or then with licenses, most probably are standardized testing. But then you have to look at what population are they studying or they're using to make these standardized tests.
Right.
I am going to guess that it's not people that look like me. So that is like, so it's another, you're going to hear me say a lot if it comes to be a lot systems issues, that is like, that we have to look at, because and then also on top of that, the educational system, mostly in the United States, is geared to a lot of memorizing. It's kind of like you memorize things, put them on the test, you get an A, we're done. It's not like other educational systems in other parts of the world where critical thinking, it's what's being exercised. Yes, the exercise memory and all of that, but critical thinking, so that people can start questioning or trying to find solutions to something versus just finding where do I need to read to memorize this so I can get a test, so I can get an A on the test.
Like our police officers, they memorize stuff and they don't use critical thinking and judgment calls. We'll get there, right? But
I think
that's a very good point. To one of the things that Kira wanted to bring up is mental health. Ultimately, we get to that. I just couldn't help but that relates very, very much. This culture is all about memorizing, following orders. Not as much critical thinking seems to be encouraged, sadly.
And I have to say, I wasn't even aware of that until, again, a licensing test that I had to take to have the license that I have now. Because in Illinois, it's what I call a 2-tier state. Basically, you have a first license, which you can do some things, but to do other things that you want, you need the second one. So the first test was mostly memorization. You study, you got it, okay, we're good. The other one is actually a different type of test, because you actually have to critical think, because they give you a scenario and they're like, these are the options, but you have to okay, yeah, I remember symptoms. So they're like, what is the focus of, what will be the focus of treatment in this scenario? How would you treat this? What interventions would you use? And if you pick the wrong one, the test wouldn't let you know. They would just go of it, and then you would just have to go. And that's kind of how real life is. If you really don't sit down and listen to the person, and you don't try to put yourself in their shoes, trying to see how they're experiencing the world as much as you can, to kind of give them that objective piece that they need to move forward because they are stuck or whatever is happening in their life, you can cause more harm than good, because you're not understanding. And sometimes people don't return to session because they had a horrible experience at the beginning. I have clients that come to me, and one of the first questions that I ask is have you been in therapy before? The second they say yes, I'm like, how come you're not with that person? What worked? Yeah. What worked? Because I tell them, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. If something worked at one point, well, let's use that, and let's not explore new things, and let's use but then tell me what didn't work. Yeah. And a lot of the times is one of the pieces that we talked about. It's that not being able to relate. Now, the person, sometimes it's assuming that they know, that they're the experts on the person's life. And I'm like, so that's something that you have to learn. But and it wasn't until I took that test that I had to change the decades of how I used to study. It had to change. So I had to change. Thankfully, I passed the test on my first try, and I'm really proud of that. But it took a lot of studying and a lot of even in intrapersonal work to change my mind shift and understanding. You can't study to memorize, because it's not going to help you in this test. You're going to fail. So that's to your question about how do I think it's a barrier. It's a lot of layers. It's a systems issue that includes, for example, I just connected the educational system to these licensing boards, for example. So that's why I said it's a complex question. But I think I answered it too.
It seems so much of that is also connected to a very, very simple thing, which is empathy, which is lacking a lot. I don't know that it's necessarily focused on as much in our culture.
Say that again, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Empathy.
Yeah, that it's lacking in our culture. Yeah,
it seems to be lacking in our culture over here in the West. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, what you were speaking to, Luis, is the over-encompassing thing there is empathy, as it relates to what you were talking about. Not, critical thinking, I think, also involves empathy, processing information, not just, the whole memorization thing or how you're supposed to react. You have to have some kind of a connection with what you said a moment ago about being able to understand what other people are feeling and what they're going through.
Yeah. I was going to put yourself in other person's shoes. And if you're able to critically think, you can't exercise that. Because if I come to session and Kira was saying that she wasn't having a bad day, and she tells me, oh, this happened to me. And I was like, well, what I think you should do is this, that, and the other. I'm already telling her, this is what you need to do. Assuming that I know what is best for her.
Going through your lens. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not even the point of therapy. The point of therapy is yes, sometimes depending on the orientation and the school of thought the therapist goes with, some are more direct in their guiding, others are not. So that's different, but it's also just to remember that it's supposed to feel like a guiding experience. And sometimes some clients will tell you, "Can you please tell me what I need to do?" Like,
can you just tell me what you would do?
well,
What would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do? Come on.
And what I always tell them, well, from what you're saying and my understanding, and remember, I don't live your life. I always open with something like that. This is what it seems that from what your goals are, what it matches. Because I always connect it to them, because at the end of the day, they only see me an hour a week.
Yeah.
I've seen people like twice a week, but that's really rare. They only see me once because I'm not in a crisis setting, I'm in private practice. So I see people once an hour a week. And I need to also help these people build skills to use when they're out of my session. Because the other times that I'm not with them, that's the whole point. That's another goal of therapy. It's like, you come here like for getting something that you need to continue functioning the way that you want in your life. And to like form that world around you, which includes like relationships with other people, relationships with yourself, with your environment, and all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this conversation, it got me really curious about and something that Kathy Power said in the chat about there being a severe shortage of culturally relevant therapists, right? Where empathy could be a little bit more available, right? And an opportunity to understand where somebody's coming from when you have that. So I was like, gosh, well, so we have like the, racial breakdown of the United States, for example, is almost 60% white, almost 19% Hispanic, 12.5% Black, and 6% Asian. But then you do the breakdown of racial statistics by therapists, and you have that, there are 76.5% white therapists, 10.5% Asian, Hispanic is 6.3%, and then Black at 4.1%. So there's definitely a disparity there, like inside of representation in regards to therapists to the general population, which we would assume almost everybody could benefit from mental health care. So that kind of actually transitions me onto another topic that I did want to chat with you about, because there were so many, and access is one of my really big, values. I value access inside of my own business, so much so that I give my product away for free to anybody who cannot afford my services. Mm-hmm. Access is very important to me. And ironically, I live in the United States, where access to so many things is hindered by this idea that you need to have a lot of money in order to deserve healthcare or education or any other number of things. So can you speak to some of, both maybe from the therapy end of things, because I know that insurance ain't easy to deal with, and from the client side of things, like how, even if someone has insurance, right? Let's speak to those people first. Like, why is that fucked up? Why is insurance like unworkable? Because I think we all know that that's the case.
Can I add something here? I think that a fan. Culturally, we don't put enough emphasis on the importance of mental health care, because you're supposed to buck it up, right? Yeah. You're supposed to keep your feelings to yourself.
Especially if you're a man.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Especially if you're a man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I think, unfortunately, that's a big problem with our culture, is that, I have shared with somebody close that I think that they have an anxiety issue, and they should perhaps seek counseling or treatment for that. And their response is always, there's nothing wrong with me. I didn't say there's something wrong with you. I said, I sense you fit the archetype of someone who has anxiety, and it's unfortunately painful for me to see how you're affected by it. And I think it would help you to talk to a professional to kind of help you manage that, so that, but this is because it's a mental health issue, which is unfortunately stigmatized, and it shouldn't be. This goes to the whole idea of, like, Kira, what you were talking about with getting insurance. It's like, insurance for any medical situation is hard to get your insurance carrier to cover you. But I think a lot of people are stigmatized to begin with, to believing that, mental health is a stigma and that they should figure out how to manage it on their own, when we should actually be encouraging so many people in our society, across all stratas, all income levels, all classes, that mental health is very, very important, as we'll perhaps transition into later. But as we talk about, here in Chicago, mental health services are not easily available for our Chicago residents, which we feel, unfortunately, has an impact on reactionary behavior that sadly leads to crime. And it's like, as long as you're not providing good mental health for our residents in Chicago and ignoring that, you're not solving the root causes of what might lead to all these other problems that we don't seem to be able to get a handle on.
And I agree. I think you're mentioning a lot of things that are, again, connected. That's why I like the compound word systems issues or phrase or whatever you want to call it, because of that. Because there's the more you ask, which is critical thinking coming into place, the more you notice that, like, okay, this is connected to this and this is causing this issue. So let's go here. Yep. And then you see that this one is not working for this because this over here is doing what it's not supposed to be doing. So it's like, okay, well, let's go to here. So it's like those interwoven gears that you need to like look at. And to answer the question in regards to the insurance and why they cover and they don't cover that, it sounds simple, but a lot of it has to do with politics. Like literally who you vote for and who is up there is controlling how these insurances work. And the permissions that they get to charge and what they cover and not cover, especially if you're a recipient of, let's say, Medicare and Medicaid, who are programs that are funded by the country, in some states within the country. So all of that is, again, with politics. So that would be like the easiest question to answer to that one, because for an example that I can give, and all therapists can relate to this, some therapists don't take insurance, so they don't have to deal with like the issues in getting paid for our services, because people sometimes tell me, oh yeah, like you only talk to people for a living, and I'm like, yeah, but the topics they bring to therapy is not talking about what you're talking about with me at a bar while we're having a cocktail. They're talking about like this really traumatic event, and sometimes events one after the other, and this person is like holding to dear life to hope because of all these things that happened. And those are the things that I deal like. And then when you study forensic psychology, I studied serial killers and gangs. So I went to a really dark place of where the human mind can go. So hence one of the reasons I'm not practicing that at all.
Pass on that.
A lot of it has to do with that. Like, for example, when I tell people, how come your benefits change from coverage when every election year happens? Because of that. Who is deciding where the money goes? And for example, therapists, I was going to get sidetracked a little bit. Some therapists don't take insurances because they just don't get validated for their time. Like some insurances can pay you over $100 for coverage, and then the other piece is a co-payment from the client. And then say like, okay, that's a good working hour for the services they give. But some other insurances may pay you like 50 or 70 or something like that. That you're like, okay, like because and also part of it is because because the healthcare system in this country is also business wise.
Yeah.
Therapy has also the other side that is a business. And if I don't charge what I need to charge to keep the business afloat, then there's no space for my community to go to. Does that make sense? So it's like so many different things, again, that is a system that needs to be really looked at and see what we can do. And part of it is politics, register to vote, help tell your friends to register to vote and vote, like and see what these people, and not just voting for voting, like look at these people, what do they do, what are your areas of interest, and who is like matching with those ideals. So that would be for the insurances. Then the other question was access to people who don't have health insurance.
Yeah, and people for people who don't have health insurance, right? Like what would you tell them if they were in a situation where they needed mental health, not even like a crisis situation where they're just like, I know that this would help me. Like, where do you go? And specifically in the city of Chicago would be my curiosity, just because we are speaking to a Chicago audience. Like what would you tell them?
Well, there's several ways that somebody that doesn't have insurance can get therapy services. So I just wanted to state it that you don't need health insurance to get quality mental health services. Like then thankfully that's a reality. The things like the spaces may be limited because of that same reason. But then going back to like what are their options? One of them there are therapists out there that have pro bono spaces. They just give that hour for free. Like you will go in and you don't pay anything. Like that's it. How do you find them? Normally, for therapists don't. I haven't seen. I don't want to speak for all the therapists, but like I haven't seen it. Like it's the first thing that you see on their page. When you're looking up them online and whatnot, it's not the first thing. But I do encourage people when I talk about how to find this, like find a therapist that's around your area, or when you read their bio or their website that you like, and a simple call. And the things that people also don't know the language, right? So they don't know how to ask for these things, and that's a really big. I think that's another big problem.
That is a big problem. Yes.
So hopefully today, this audience, some of them may to spread the word. So pro bono, it's again, the person will give this therapy for free, and you will get that hour, and you will still have that spot. And some therapists have limited spaces for pro bono work because again, they need to have some cash flow to keep the practice alive, which is what I was saying earlier. So that's one. Two, look for schools around your area that have psychology programs. Why? Because most likely those programs are gonna have students that need to give therapy as part of like graduating. So you can get to either at no cost because there's students, but they're supervised because they have to graduate. So it's not like you're gonna see a student and then the student's gonna take forever. No, these people are supervised as well. So I explained that sometimes it's at little to no cost. And also you can ask when you call, let's say, said private practice or center that they give mental health, hey, do you have any students that can help me like with, in your roster that can be at less pay because I don't have any insurance? That's another thing. Another big one that people don't know about is sliding scales. Therapists are used to doing sliding scales, at least I am, all the time. And what does that mean? Every practice is different, but basically you talk to your therapist, so to the person that's managing the sliding scales, just to tell them, hey, I can't pay, let's say, $150. So they ask you, they probably might ask you for like your income or like a pay stub, and then tell you, okay, because of your pay stub and your annual income, instead of $150, can you pay $50? No, okay. Pay $35, and we try to find a space because we want to make it accessible, right? As much as we can. But again, because we have to have that business hat on at the same time, it's sometimes sad. But it does give access to some people who can say, you know what, I can't pay $50, but yes, I can pay $35. Because you also don't want therapy to be a burden. And I also make that known to my clients that are in sliding scales. I'm like, I have I always think that the best practice is to have some level of reassessment in a few months just to see where that person is at, because then their income might go up, and then you're able to charge a little bit more because again that helps the practice and to keep the community that space open. Or maybe something else happened and you might need to decrease it a little bit. It's just like it's very important. But sliding scales do exist, and I feel like that's like the ones that come to mind at the moment. But but it's out there. Just that outreach and ask, and just know what sliding scale is, like that language, and what pro bono is, and that students are available. And when you come to universities, some universities have their own like spaces where students can practice giving therapy, because some schools, they have like programs or whatever that people can just do their practicum there. Or if not, you can ask the schools, hey, like what are some like practicum sites that you send your students to? And they say, oh yeah, we have a partnership with this one, and the other. If you're looking for services, try here, because they do have students there available. So those are some of the options that can get this accessible, and you don't need insurance for quality. For example, I have had sliding scale clients, multiple, I don't even know how many, because of that. Because I want to give them that access, because what we've been talking about, it is important, and if there's a way that I can do that, which I found that I can do these things, I'm like, okay, well, let's dive into that and let's get you the help that we need. And I've had pro bono clients as well. Like they started paying the full rate. Let's say that, prime example, they lost their job because of the pandemic. They might say, well, I can only pay you maybe half of that. Okay, and then they haven't found a job. It will be unethical to just like leave that client. Well, you can pay by. At least if you can't pay them because of like because of the monetary income, because we can't assume everybody's like finances. ethically, I would tell them, well, I will research places for them to go and say, hey, I researched these places. They specialize in this. They have space for you. Give them a call and see if you're able to like find somebody there that is able to, be in your price range, for lack of a better term. If you're looking for pro bono, they might have pro bono spaces. Or normally, it's like just call. I tell them, hey, I did call. They have pro bono spaces, but you have to call now because they're probably going to be gone if you wait like a week or two. Because that's
So it's not an odd question to ask, like, can I get your services for cheaper?
Yes. Well, they're probably going to prefer sliding scale and pro bono.
All right, use different language, but that's essentially what you're asking. And, that makes sense. Absolutely. I do want to get one more question in before
Kira, I know I haven't been very vocal in this show today.
Speak up, Ed.
And I just wanted to let you know it's so nice to know that there are new options to getting therapy that don't rely on me looking, at things like movie clips for my mental health. I just, because this is the kind of thing that I had to rely on to try to deal with my mental health issues.
It seems as though you're doing much better. Yes. Paranoia is definitely under control since you came to understand happy premise number one.
Happy premise number one.
Happy premise number one. No aliens.
Happy premise number two.
Happy premise number two. There is no giant foot trying to squash me.
Happy premise number three.
Happy premise number three. Even though I feel like I might ignite, I probably won't.
So what do we do?
Keep it together. Keep it together.
And what is it we don't do under any circumstances?
Oh, man.
What is it?
Look, I have to show it to the Laker girls.
You cannot show it to the Laker girls.
You cannot show it to the Laker girls.
Yes!
Thank you, Ed. If only my job were that easy, that would be great. Fantastic.
The movie is Bowfinger.
Oh, it's a classic.
Bowfinger, is that what it is?
Okay.
That was all, and that whole portion of the film was Steve Martin's way of really, really poking a lot of fun at Scientology in Los Angeles, as a lot of people participate in. But good movie, good selection, Ed.
I'm gonna have to check that movie out. I've been meaning to watch it for a while, and then never got around to it. And it looks incredible.
It's gotta be on your list.
But one last question, because we actually, Luis, talked a while ago when I originally had the idea to have somebody in my field, in my community, come on inside of the mental health field. And the reason I had that thought was it was right on the heels of the Highland Park shooting, and Uvalde was right a month before that. And I was like, man, like, I have it that, like, this idea that that mental health was the thing that would have stopped XYZ shooter. Like, I just feel like there's like a scapegoating going on in regard to that. And at the same time, we're walking a fine line, because we do need mental health services. We need much more access than what we have to mental health. And in fact, mental health could actually stop a lot of that stuff from happening. And so, we're dealing with sort of a yes and kind of a conversation, in my opinion, right? Lack of access to mental health care and abundant access to weaponry that can kill a lot of people in a short period of time. So in your opinion, if representatives of ours who are saying like, oh, we need to take action to stop this, and mental health is the action, if they were actually serious about that, what actions in your scope would they be taking? What should we be seeing from these representatives who are claiming that mental health is the problem in this like rampant gun culture we have going on here.
Yes, I think it's really layered, and it's a really fine line because people tend to take this topic and immediately say, oh, like if a person has a mental illness, they should not have access to a gun because that is like the prime, issue that caused this horrible event, like the mass shootings, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people is like, you have to like, it's a layered of things because if that will be the logic, then everybody who's diagnosed with a mental illness is gonna, anytime they get a firearm, they're gonna make a mass shooting. Is that correct? Absolutely not. No. Is there responsible gun owners that have mental illness diagnosed? Of course they are. So that's why it's not the only one. So I do agree there's a mental health component to it, but it's not as, I just don't like the whole hyper focus on it only. And that is one of the things that they need to do is to address the other systems issues. And one of this is systemic racism that has all these systems in place. Because when we're talking like having an ideology that, I am, the ideology that Nazis, have, or neo-Nazis that we have now, people who are like white supremacists, they might not have a diagnosed mental illness, but they will pick that gun and shoot any person of color. So you see what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. So that's so yes, do please address mental health because it's really needed, especially because of many of the factors that we talked about, for the last 50 minutes. But yeah, like one thing to do is like they need to call these layers out. Basically, they need to like, okay, let's look at these layers and how can we help this system work where we wanted it to work? Because also, on the other thing, and I lived this when I used to work at community mental health, when there needed to be budget cuts because the state was like, what do you call it? The state has no money. What do you call it? Bankruptcy, or whatever it's called, when the state doesn't have that much money and wants to make money. The first budget cuts that go away, guess what kind of programs they take away from?
Mm-hmm. You're thinking of the word austerity?
Maybe. Yes, I like that word. So like bilingual problems.
Yeah.
So like, so that's another thing. Like they take away the first budget cuts sometimes are from mental health services.
Yeah.
And I lived through that because a lot of so it's just again it's like a lot of layers. So they address the mental illness, and also like we're talking about politics. There is research out there that when these reforms in other countries, when mass shootings happen, I think it was Australia, but I don't want to misquote. But I think Australia was the country when they had like that one mass shooting. I forgot when they basically say, they took all these guns, they are away, and then they haven't had like one in I don't know how many years. And I think this same country, again, I don't want to misquote it. This country, they also had they had a recent one, and then immediately people who don't believe in like trying to have some type of like screening process for you to gain access to a gun. They may say, see, look at that. They had all these laws, and now they also had another mass shooting. I'm like, yes, but it's few or far in between. We're talking about like how many mass shootings that we had in the United States of America alone, and the year is not over.
Yeah. No, we have more than one a day. More than one a day.
That is scary. And there's countries that don't live like that. And I think another part that also again that relates to mental health is like, and some of the other values that we talked about is like people think this is the norm. Oh, I have to live with like mass shootings happening every day. That's the norm in this country. That's kind of how the law of the world. I'm like, no. We don't have to normalize mass shootings. This is people's lives. This is people's livelihoods. Like, and we're talking about how this is a cascade effect. Because if a person who was the breadwinner of the family, now this family is all cascaded into like possibly not even being able to afford the shelter. And then this person cannot be in their home because they can't pay rent, they can't find a job in time, and rent was due. Mm-hmm. Then now we're talking about somebody that's living in the streets, and now they don't have access to food. So it keeps just like it's a really awful cascade event when you can see when these things happen. But we cannot only put it on it's a mental health issue, because it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was my that was my inkling of it. But like initially I was just like, man, I'm tired of hearing about this. And I want to bring someone who works inside of this field to actually speak to it, because I think it's important to actually talk to the people who are working at the ground level in these worlds and ask, right? Do you see this being the lead issue? And what would legislators be doing if they weren't shitting us constantly, right? And so, and that's all she wrote. Luis, why don't you tell our audience where they can find you on social media or otherwise? I know that you have some spaces online, and I don't know if you're practicing in person or not, but if you want to share any of that, by all means, please go ahead and share.
No, I am full right now.
No more.
I am full at the moment, but thank you. And then on social media, I don't know if I give the name of my social media accounts, but one of them is in Instagram is Beard the Rainbow. Long story short, I used to dye my hair and my beard the same color. Pandemic happened, and I couldn't like buy my products anymore for my hair not to fall out. So, but I still like the name. I would change it some other time, but for now it's, and you'll see some pictures of me with like, again, the whole ensemble. So if you're curious, it's called Beard the Rainbow on Instagram. But then what I do on Instagram now is it's a lot of like self-care and kind of like funny tidbits on mental health. Like the latest one, it was basically just, and I'm paraphrasing it, it was talking about like, it was this audio clip that I used. The person was saying, do you think I care about what you have to say about me when I didn't even consent to be born and I don't even like it here? What the fuck? So you know what I'm saying? So like this type of things that they say. So I do that on Instagram, and also on Instagram because I do believe in self-care and talking about what you were saying, like, you know, catering to oneself is very important. And I think in the culture of the United States of America, my experience has been that they have this glorification of work. So the more you work, the more money you're gonna have, and the more you're gonna attend, and you strive to have the mansion and the car. And so the more I work, having 3 jobs, working every day. And that's not the truth, because I had 2 jobs. I don't have a mansion. So like, you know what I'm saying? Yep. And how many people do we know that work 2-3 jobs and they're still sometimes not even able to make it, or sometimes they can't even bring food to the table. So it's not the
story of my life.
It's not that I work too much or too little. It's a systems issue about wages and like giving people the living wage that they need to like eat and have a shelter and buy clothes, especially in a city like Chicago when you need a coat to go outside for 8 months of the year. So like this that is very important. So and then also in Beard the Rainbow, I also because I talk a lot about self-care. You see a lot of my travels because that is my self-care. So if I tell people to like, hey, what is your self-care? Oh, I like reading. I like that. So in therapy, I'm like, okay, so what happened that you left it? Is it the environment? Did you change your job? Like what happened that you're not taking care of yourself anymore? An event in your life happened and something took more priority than now? Like what's going on? So that's why I post a lot of my mental health bits and then also traveling.
I actually picked one of my favorites to show because I went through your page and I thought that there was one
I'm ready.
that I thought was really, really funny. And so I wanted to share it. Let me make sure that it's the right one. Because I had a few up and I wanted to surprise you with the end.
It is a surprise. I am surprised.
And I saw and actually I saw that Ed had the same idea as me, so I wanted to jump in and let Ed know like I've got a fun little this one right here. All right, so I thought this one was really funny. Are we ready? Here we go.
We can't. It's not up. Hold on. Hit reload and I'll put it on the stream.
Which one?
It's not up on. It's not on the screen yet, Kira. Remember I told you you're loading it up, but it's not. Yeah.
I just loaded it.
Thank you, guys. Let's try it again. I just watched
it. Okay.
Do I have to play it?
Yeah, just hit the play or reload.
How is it that you go about defining good and evil? How is it that you go about defining good and evil?
And how do you define good evil? Or bad evil?
That's a great question to explore in therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I work in the wellness and health industry, so we talk about morality in the world of health.
So thank you for sharing that. That was funny. So then on TikTok, I forgot my handle. I know my name is like Luis the Clinician. I think my handle is Your Friend the Therapist with like 3 million underscores because like people like took that name. I don't know why. I couldn't even find the ones that have that account. So yeah, hopefully I can put it on the screen, but it's not. If not, it's Luis the Clinician, and if not, it's like I think it's Your Friend the Therapist, but you put a underscore in it before every word. Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Before every word.
Your underscore therapist.
Yeah, and then with TikTok, for people who use social media, TikTok and Instagram have different type of aesthetic and type of also people that view each platform they're from their preference. So in TikTok, they're also comedy, but it's geared to just like snippets all the time. And then I also have like a series that I call it, but it's called Random Thoughts of Therapists. And every time like I think of a random thought of something, I just record myself and talk about it. And then I'm like, tell me what you think. So the last one is actually is pretty funny. The last one that I have like talking about the aerial, because I was like talking.
What does that say? I can't read it.
No, it's fine. So it says like, so if anybody knows what's going on with like,
hold on.
No, it's fine. I can explain it. So it's like what the people talking about how Halle Berry was cast for the Little Mermaid live action. Long story short, for those who don't know, the Little Mermaid is they're remaking the Little Mermaid that Disney made years ago, decades ago. That was an animation, and now it's live action. So people are now upset because of their use. The Little Mermaid was white skin, and now the person that's playing her, a fish, is black. And then now people have an issue because there's a black mermaid. So they made a whole thing about therapists. So I noticed that was like coming up a lot, including with people that, again, close to me that were making comments, and I'm like, no. So, and then I heard people also, not acquaintances of mine, thankfully, or friends, but they were just talking about how this is not right, blah, blah, blah. And I've heard people also say like things like, oh, when you're talking about race, they're like, oh, why do you make it about race? Or I don't see color. I don't know why we cannot get along. I don't see color. So now I throw that back at them. When they talk about the Little Mermaid, how upset they are because she's black, I'm like, well, I don't see color, so I don't see what the problem is. Or
I don't really see
that's not my Ariel. I don't see color. She's supposed to be white, not black. I'm like, so what is the other comment I said? Oh, why do you have to make it about race? It's like, why do you have to make it about race? And just give it back, and then they're like, and then
repackage it.
Exactly. It's just like, do you understand how that just didn't make sense when I told it to you? It's the same energy. So when you're telling people of color, we're like, are you okay?
Yeah, you really don't see that. Okay, sure.
So the reason that I use, and I talk about more about social justice things like this or like stuff like that, but with a humor aspect to it. That's more on my TikTok. Instagram, not so much, but TikTok is like more of that one.
Yeah.
I speak on social.
I enjoy the humor because I mean the thing about it is we get on this show every week and we talk about really heavy topics, and there are times when I'll walk away from a show and I'll
exhausted.
I always walk away from the show exhausted.
Me too.
Let's be honest. But there
I use humor in my therapy sessions too. Like that is part of. Obviously, yeah. Oh, I love it, especially when. Oh, I love it when my clients curse. I already know I'm in. I'm like, I already know I'm in the circle. Right. The minute they drop a shit or a fuck, I'm like, okay, I know I'm here.
All right, we're
perfect.
In.
So
that's how I am with my clients too, actually. But yeah. Go ahead. I
was gonna say, but also just for the caveat, not with everybody, because also not all situations require humor to process, and also not all people are receptive to humor.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's always like I use it a lot, and I tell my client. I also make a caveat because, as you can see, I like being animated. So I tell my clients, hey, I use a lot of humor in sessions. So if you don't feel comfortable, just let me know. Like, it's not gonna be a problem because this is your space, and I have to work to make it comfortable. But
This
I just
is-
feel it because it makes it comfortable for me.
This is the reason we punctuate all of our stories with our little drop-ins, because we just have to
Yeah,
break
exactly.
like this one.
Oh.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
I love that. I love that.
No, I've had people's like, I have people that have so much, and I'm just like, do you just want to scream at that pillow? And they're looking at me, and I'm like, go ahead and scream at the pillow. Like, who are you gonna hurt? Like, there's nobody here. Like,
Yep.
what are you gonna do? Or sometimes, do you want to punch the pillow? And they're like, can I? And I'm like, of course. I mean, you're punching. Better you punch this pillow than the actual person that you're mad about, which can
That's
cascade
right.
into your like.
You gotta release that energy.
Yeah, it's like,
literally.
It
I always
really
said-
does depend on the person, though.
It does. I really have.
That's true.
Sometimes I
No,
should
go ahead, go
not
ahead.
talk about assault or possible thoughts about assault on this channel, but I don't know. A pillow versus the person.
Another great topic.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
I said nothing. You didn't hear it.
I love that. Oh my god, that was so much fun. And I always said, if I had the expendable income in a good location, I would just have to like. I haven't planned it yet, but in my mind, it's like a place where anybody, like regardless of whatever type of like ableism they have, like not ableism, whatever able body they are, just they can come in, and if they want to like just like get a bat or get something or just like throw like.
Oh yeah, no, they have those spaces. Yeah.
Oh my god, I would
absolutely.
love to own one of those and just let people. You know what? Just go, just wreck that. Just let it out. I'd rather.
Yeah, they do have those spaces.
Then,
Where are they?
If you find one in Chicago, let me know.
Like
'cause I'm
a
Yeah.
Nerf room, like
I
made
think
out of
there
all
is
Nerf
one
products.
in Chicago. I do think there is one. I'll have to look around and
If
send
it
you
does, I know
something.
exactly what I'm doing.
Where I've seen something about one before. But anyway, I do. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap us up here. Luis, are you staying with us to talk about the stories, or are you gonna head out and bid us good night?
No, I have to head out. I have to head out for good night because client duties. But I appreciate it. I would not mind because I did read
story.
I did read the stories, and I actually had a whole notepad of like what to talk about. But then client things came up. But yeah, thank you so much, Ed, Jerry, and Kira for even starting this connection. I would love to come back. Because, I mean, one, I like talking to, especially if it's about mental health. And like I said, when I was talking about my TikToks, like political issues like this, they're important to talk about because a lot of the, and just from personal experience, I think people are also told to like not talk about, politics because it's like an uncomfortable subject. And I think that's actually a barrier. We need to talk about the politics because even the food we eat, like me being able to get like this bottle of water, this shirt that I'm wearing, all of it has to do with politics and the people that are up there. And I don't think people are educated on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we amplify and we have spaces to, this is why I'm really grateful for this one because I know that I was able to give valuable and accurate information, not like a TikTok and like think, oh, this influencer told me to do this. I'm like, once I get there, yes, listen to me. But for the moment, as a licensed therapist, just these are really, I hope that I gave somebody even just like the words to be that driving tool for themselves or somebody they know, like you, Jerry, you were talking about that friend of yours, like to understand, hey, there's things out there. It's not just a cut and dry. You don't have insurance. For example, you don't have insurance. You can't go to therapy. That's not true.
Well, I can personally vouch for the fact that for the past, I want to say 15, 20 years, I've been self-diagnosing because the amount of trauma, and you know what, Kira, when we had that Chicago Corner meeting with you and me and Ed, and you recognized, I deal with a lot of trauma, post-traumatic stress. I do. You know what? I was very grateful. No. I was grateful you sensed that because you're an empath like I am. But I'm just like, there's just too much to unravel. So luckily, I spent a lot of time on psychology websites, and I managed to self-diagnose to understand these things because I've never felt that I could afford it in the past until what you've shared today. But it's also helpful to be open-minded and study and understand mental health. I mean, people can research stuff online until they can see a professional therapist to help them, guide them through things and manage their trauma on their own until they, realize they can't quite handle it all on their own. So anyway, it's been very informative, and I'm very grateful you were able to share a lot of stuff that you came on to bring in to present to us tonight.
No, thank you again so much. I do appreciate it. And what you mentioned about the internet, yes, it's there. And I think the problem is because now everybody can make a web page. That's where I always tell my clients, okay, so what did you Google? Show me the page that you Google.
Yeah, you don't always want to rely on Dr. Google. I understand that. However, in trying to figure out, is it me or am I surrounded by crazy people, whether they're sociopaths, narcissists? I got to tell you, Luis, I knew nothing about narcissistic personality disorder and how many people in real life I was encountering with that to understand certain dynamics in my life or borderline personality disorders. And look, I'm not perfect. I know I know what my issues are, but it did understand to look at things and okay, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing from this person. And it's not me. I'm trying to make things copacetic and make, and make things easy. But sometimes you might encounter personality types that, you come into impact with, and it just helps you realize it's not all you.
It's like that gut feeling that you're like, this is not okay. That's one of the things that I talk in therapy. I'm like, if your gut feeling is telling you, think about this, think about it. Tell that with people.
Listen to that gut. Yeah.
It's there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So we get them.
Got all those nerves for a reason. All right.
No, for sure. Cool. Thank you, everybody, again.
Thanks, Luis.
I appreciate, and if there's ever an opportunity, I will gladly take it. I'm not even. It's not even a question. I'll be like, yes, and we'll be like, when.
Just tell me when. I'll be there.
Just I'll arrange everything. Just tell me when.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation to invite you again, because I probably will at some point. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.
Yeah. Bye, Kira, Jerry, and Ed.
Later.
Take care. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it.
Peace. All right, guys.
Good.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Good times. I love having conversations with people. It's so much. It's so much. I do a little bit of research, right, when I'm going to be getting into an interview, but I do really depend on okay, it's my turn to learn. On this.
All of us.
So.
And our viewers. By the way, I got to really quickly mention. Oh, go ahead.
We just got Arturo with a Halloween idea for us, which I think we could probably muster up.
I like it. By the way, we did end up going live on Rokfin with Kit's assistance. We have been streaming live on Rokfin for all evening. It seems to have kicked in before Luis came on, but the show is running its entirety from the countdown. So I want to thank everybody who's joining us over on Rokfin, and hopefully this will work Friday, and we can start weaning our viewers from YouTube to go over to Rokfin, where you can also tip us there instead of tipping through YouTube, which gives us pennies as opposed to what Rokfin helps stream to us to support our efforts here. So,
yep.
Special shout out and thanks to Kit for helping kickstart that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your commitment to our success.
I'm going to step away for a moment for a bathroom break, so I will return, but don't let that slow you guys down.
All right, we'll pop in when you're done. All right.
Okay,
cool.
and to close out this segment.
Look, I have to show it to the Laker girls.
You cannot show it to the Laker girls. Keep Mr. Weenie in the pants. Always in the pants. I know you want to show it to the Laker girls, but you must never show it to the Laker girls.
Yeah. You must never show it.
Okay, got that out of my system.
All right. Yep, we needed to get that completion. Yep, I get it. All right, Ed. Well, let's talk about our first story here up on deck which actually started out.
Oh wait, we're doing stories?
Yeah. Did you think we were done?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, we're definitely doing stories, but we only have 45 minutes of stories left. I run a tight ship.
45.
That's it. No, I'm done at 9:30.
Okay.
I turn into a pumpkin at 9:31. So
All right,
that's
then
how that goes.
we better start flying through these then.
All right. So so I had caught wind of a story about an anti-violence group that had spent a summer hosting softball games to promote peace in Washington Park. And they're actually getting the boot now. They're getting kicked out. And it's all because of a shooting that organizers say had nothing to do with the game. So according to the witnesses, the police, a fight had broken out the evening of September 13th, and someone fired shots and left 2 people dead and 8 others wounded. The game, which was organized by Aclavis, a community health organization with a focus on violence prevention, was interrupted by the shooting, of course. But as a result of the shooting, they had their permits to play in the park yanked by the Chicago Park District. And this group has been organizing softball tournaments all summer, recruiting residents from Douglas, Grand Boulevard, and Washington Park to play. It gave residents a safe, fun thing to do and erased imaginary battle lines in the area. Sworn enemies became friends while playing. And witnesses agreed, saying that the shooting there had nothing to do with the game and that the gunman had chased someone into the field. They said the group even tried to get police to show up to the games in the past. But just in case issues like this had ever arose, but the only time police ever appeared was to enforce the 9 p.m. park curfew, of course, forcing games to be cut short and all that. I mean, and this story by itself certainly elicited for me like that ain't right, kind of like that's kind of bullshit response, right? Like you have this group that's an anti-violence group who's getting shut down because there happened to be a shooting, because there's a fucking shooting everywhere all the fucking time.
We reported on a story similar to this, months ago, where there were like peaceful protesters and the cops were shutting them down in their neighborhood. It's the same thing. It's because it's in neighborhoods of color. Yeah,
absolutely. And then Ed shared another story, weirdly enough, that all dropped in the same week. Which basically talked about like, the circumstances inside of the Chicago Police Department ordering the closings of businesses that are in some way linked to shoot. And not even like, when I say linked to shootings, it's like lack of a better
linked
word.
To people of color.
Like
they don't do it downtown. Yeah. It's linked to people of color in neighborhoods. That's where it's linked to, because you don't see it happening in Streeterville or downtown or in the Loop, where there's just as much violence and there's just as much potential violence and just as much potential crime.
Yeah, absolutely. And and there are very specific businesses as well. So, this story starts to dig into like what businesses are safe from being shut down, basically, and what business, if there is violence in or around the business, and what businesses are effed. And yes, and we find that the businesses in neighborhoods with, Black people, Hispanic people, those are the ones getting shut down. So when a patron of a glitzy near Northside bar called the Liquor Box was gunned down in the middle of Orleans Street, Chicago police officers spoke with a friend of the man, and he told them that the incident had begun inside the club. But they didn't shut down Liquor Box.
Of course not, because it was downtown.
And it has a douchey spelling. No,
it's a tourist. It's
judgmental.
The tourist circle downtown.
So yeah, they didn't shut down Liquor Box, whose owners include Carmen Rossi, a clout-heavy businessman who runs a string of restaurants and clubs, holds the liquor license for none other than Lollapalooza, and is a political.
No, you don't say.
Yeah, and
he holds the liquor. You know what, Kira?
Hanky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird. Well, don't you say strange or weird? I mean, hinky, that has no meaning.
That's right. So, they didn't shut down Liquor Box. And there's this coincidence that Carmen Rossi happens to hold that liquor license, and also a big contributor to Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Of course. Well, wait, Mayor Lori Lightfoot? I got to drop.
What a fucking bitch, am I right?
Because I love making Kira laugh.
That clip cracks me up. The way he says it makes me laugh. What a fucking bitch, am I right? so funny. Okay. It's too much. Okay, so and Lightfoot says, of course, that her ties to Rossi had nothing to do with the police decision. Not
Because I'm sure he might.
This is such a crock of shit.
We gotta laugh, or
gonna,
else we'd be crying.
I knew I was gonna cry on the show tonight. I just knew I was, but I didn't realize it was gonna come out quite like this. Oh my God. I've had such a hard week, and this
I'm sorry, Kira. I'm sorry.
The humor I need. Like, no, this has nothing to do with all the money I get from this guy. All right. So, anyway, my glasses are fucked up. All right. So,
$1 million.
It's probably more than that.
That's a lot of money.
All right.
I think
moving on.
I mean, it was a lot of money. It's $15,500.
Wow.
To Lightfoot's campaign fund. And he wished her a happy birthday in an email saying it was great catching up with you on Sunday at Lollapalooza.
Yeah, I bet it was.
So anyway. Oh man, it's too much. 2015, police department records show that at least 58 Chicago businesses, liquor stores and bars, as well as gas stations, restaurants, and other establishments have been shut down as a result of shootings. So 58 entities have been shut down due to shootings. The ordinance gives the police department the little known but immense power to immediately close businesses associated with violence. Not necessarily the cause of or like a part of the violence, but just if violence occurs there, they're now associated to it.
Yeah, associated is doing a whole lot of work. The word associated.
Associated is doing a whole lot of work. Absolutely.
We got a $1 super chat from Kathy. So real quick. There you go, Kathy. Also, a $2 super chat from Dominic over on our Rokfin. That was our very first super chat on Rokfin. So thank you, Dominic.
Yay! Thank you. So Liquor Box and Joy District on Hubbard Street are part of an entertainment empire that is co-owned by Rossi. He's a lawyer, a lobbyist, and a nightclub owner. He also owns Hubbard House LLC, which is what holds the liquor license for Lollapalooza. Most of the shuttered businesses have been in low-income neighborhoods on the south and west sides. Nobody.
You needed that, Kira.
That's right. I did. Bullshit. Blowjob. Blowjob. Anyway, I sometimes just yell out blowjobs. Despite the surge of violence that downtown Chicago has experienced in recent years, it appears from police records that only one of the businesses the police have shut down has been downtown, and that was Sound Bar, which happens to be one of the only. I was going to say, which happens to be one of the only bars of downtown I think that I know. When you wave your hands like that, you look and sound like a Sesame Street Muppet. This.
Oh.
I love it. And asked what the police department's criteria for closing the business and why most of the police shutdowns are in minority areas, a spokesman declines to offer specifics, saying the Chicago Police Department issues summary closures in instances where an establishment presents a public safety threat. This is done to protect the people living, working, and visiting the areas in which a public safety threat exists.
Jerry, I think we need a few more clips that are similar to this one.
I will start mining for them, Ed.
Yeah, and so there are some. This article was actually a very, very long article, and actually I have a lot more information here on my own script, but it goes through a lot of instances of when businesses were shut down and when they weren't. So you can always look in our show notes and find the full stories. But Alderman Brandon Riley says he wonders why the police department doesn't close more businesses than it does. He routinely complained to police in City Hall about violence and noise tied to some of the early morning bars in his downtown ward. He says some of the bar owners are politically active. I hope that doesn't have anything to do with it, says Riley.
No.
Rossi also gave $1,200 to Riley's campaign fund 3 years ago. And so it is a little surprising that Riley, in this article anyway, seems to be coming down on Rossi in his quotes. He says, over the past week, every hospitality business owner has come to me to complain about Joy District's new clientele and the general lawlessness that exists on Hubbard late nights and the weekends. Says Riley, I am officially sounding the alarm bell that there is a very real and serious threat that this continued lawlessness is going to result in someone getting shot. So that's pretty severe. I don't know what the Joy District what is going on over there, but we have an alderman who is getting money from the people who own the bars in that district saying, hey, I think people might end up getting shot in that district. So
our alderman at work.
There you go. Let's see. Yeah. And so there actually have been a lot of shootings in this area later that month. That's what happened. A man was shot and wounded on the sidewalk near Joy District. A security guard for the bar was standing on the sidewalk and saw the gunman run away. No arrest was made. So that guy is likely still out and about. Besides that 2021 shooting, at least 6 other people have been arrested at the bar in the past 3 years, including a woman accused of throwing bleach on another woman.
I remember that story. That was crazy, man.
3 people being accused of punching someone, 2 arrested on charges of gun possession. And Rossi says basically, so this is, it's a spokeswoman for Rossi, the owner of the bar. Quote, as a hospitality industry in Chicago continues to rebuild after the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and also deals with the alarming increase of crime, Mr. Rossi remains committed to engaging with the local community and in concert with any necessary agencies to continue to make Chicago a world-class city. So, so this guy owns these bars. He gives lots of money to City. He does lots of business with City, where City makes lots of money from Guy. And this guy's bars seem to be unfuckable with when so many other bars and people's place of business are getting shut down for far less than what is going on in and around these Joy District bars here. Is any noise, man? Yeah. Is anybody surprised? Nobody's surprised.
Nope.
This was the least surprising story ever, which is why I shared it with all of you today.
Yeah. Corruption continues.
Yeah.
The corruption continues.
And so, I do like, just drawing these lines so that when there is any kind of confusion about how decisions are being made in our fair city, there are, obvious threads that we can actually follow. And not even in our city. Last week, we talked about all of the weird little financial threads that the Bailey family has with sort of the payout that J.B. Pritzker's administration has done for him and on behalf of him. So I just think it's interesting to follow these threads and watch what happens in decision-making from our representatives. But do you guys have anything to add to the story?
Same shit, different day.
Yep.
Ed?
Okay.
Our venerable Ed Heller. I think, did Ed take a pizza break? Oh.
Excuse me. We had a wonderful birthday celebration they gave me a cake. It had 2 beans on top of it. And so all of these restaurant patrons who give me plenty of money are just a great part of the wonderful fabric of this city of I've lost my train of thought. Goodbye.
What a fucking bitch, am I right?
I love making Kira laugh. She's got such a bright laugh.
It's an exuberant laugh.
Exuberant. That's the word. That's the word.
It's very loud. It's boisterous.
Yes, very energetic, and it really brightens up the spirit of things.
Absolutely. It's always been with me. I never see this stuff. I guess I go to the wrong bars, says Pat. Yeah, I would say the right bars. We're old folks going, we're all too tired to fight each other.
That's us. Lincoln Tap Room.
Yeah, all fight each other. Absolutely.
We gotta do that again. Find another.
We're gonna do it again.
Maybe Friday or Saturday night. One of these up. Well, maybe not Friday because we do a show, but maybe Saturday.
Saturdays, we gotta do that.
Or maybe a Sunday. Sundays might also work too. So what was I doing wrong in sharing my screen, Ed? Because I was going to share a video, but maybe I should hold off.
What you do is you share and you share the screen, and then it shows up in the bottom. You know where the buttons are, where it shows where your camera is and stuff, and then you just click on it when you're ready to put it up on the screen for the show.
Let me ask you guys: did you see tonight's HLM show that I did with Kit?
I saw part of it.
All right. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Ed, can you hit where's our breaking news?
That's around
here. Before you move on, Kira, I think that we need to share this very, very important. Okay, enough of that. Have you guys seen this?
No. Wait, is that Cabello?
Is that Kit running away from the cops?
One more time.
No. That's definitely Kit.
It sounds like him.
Kit. That's how Kit runs. That's how Kit runs.
Do you know how much shit I got from Kit for saying that's how he runs? So I discovered that clip on Reddit, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, when did Cabello run over to the UK to crash the Queen's wedding? I shared this in our Slack, and Kit said, no, that's not him. It's one of his clones that's escaped from the lab. So we need to put out an all points bulletin to Interpol, and we shared this on the HLM show since it's a national audience. But apparently one of Kit's clones escaped from the lab. And he's on the loose. It's the attack of the clones. Yes, Kit Clone Bello. So if you see that clone or any of Kit's other clones out on the streets, please drop an email to jerry@chicagocorner.tv and I'll notify Kit, and we'll see if we can, triangulate and get that clone back in the lab.
Yeah, it's an experiment that we actually shut down, but a few of the clones had escaped, and we weren't sure where the UK clone was until you posted that video, Jerry. So thank you very much. We'll be tracking him down shortly.
And by the way, Kit did an outstanding job on last night's Jimmy Dore show, talking about lead in the water, which we talked about last Friday. With that Guardian article. So props and shout outs again to Kit. And I doubt Jimmy's watching our show, but Jimmy, thanks for having Kit on. We were really thrilled to see him representing us. Representing the best of indie media here in Chicago.
And promoting,
Kira, over to you.
And also promoting Chicago with many parts per billion.
With more
now available in cans.
With what was it, 80% parts per billion more lead in the water?
Yeah.
10% more than is legally required or something.
All right.
All right.
With that being said,
no, not required, allowed.
Required. We require lead in our water. That's what makes us so tough and so angry. Brit Kit. Hilarious.
Oh my God, it was yeah. I mean, really, I'm just like, what the F? It's Kit. What is he doing in this video?
It does. It looked like Kit. He runs like Kit too. Okay.
Do you still have that up there, Jerry? Can you play it one more time?
Yeah, I will. We're gonna have to add this to our. And you know what? You know why I think they were arresting him, or they were attempting to arrest him? Because he was out trying to enjoy a succulent Chinese dinner. I had never been I'd never been exposed to that clip until we shared this clip on Twitter, and someone said, yeah, he was just trying to attempt doing a succulent Chinese dinner.
No.
And we had fun. I had fun sharing this on Twitter the other night, and all the comments on our Chicago Corner TV at Chicago Corner TV Twitter thread. One of the funniest ones was after this video, someone posted, Roger Meadows tipped $2 for this.
That's funny.
Along with Miguel Scher. Oh my God, I'm about to pass out from laughing.
That is funny. That is so funny.
Okay, one more time before we move on.
No. It even sounds like it. I keep calling him.
We need to reenact that in the future.
I said on the HLM show, I think that this Halloween, here's going to be the sellout Halloween costume. Go to your Spirit Halloween store, get a Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow beard, goatee, mustache, get a black rock star wig, and go out as one of Kit Cabello's clones. That's going to be. That is going to be the trending. That should be the trending Halloween costume this year. Kit Cabello's clone.
Hey, what are you going as for Halloween? Kit Cabello's clone. Who's Kit Cabello?
I was going to make fun of Kit's beard, but I'm going to just hold off because.
What, you were going to do what?
Make fun of Kit's beard, but I'm just going to hold off.
Well, his beard's growing in. Actually, I think Kit's got a good look with the beard and his hair longer.
I think
he's
he
got
looks
the
like
news mullet is gold. It really
the news mullet's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel
you don't like the beard?
A little like Wolfman.
Oh.
When it comes in, it looks.
Yeah, when it comes in full, yeah, it's a good look for him. And I'm not making fun of Kit. I just thought this video was, I love you, Kit, but this is just, comedy gold, and I know I'm running it again.
No. That's my purse.
Okay.
One of these days we'll have to find the backstory to that clip and find out what that guy was.
I think they were. I think they were arresting him for trying to enjoy a succulent Chinese dinner.
I mean, yeah, probably.
This is democracy. Are you guys familiar with that clip?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Democracy Manifest.
Yes, thank you.
Not familiar.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna have to pull this up so that you get the reference, Kira. Hold on, give me one moment because we're just too deep in this. We're just too deep into this whole rabbit hole right now.
Kid plays this at the end of his evening live streams now, so you can catch it a lot.
All right, I'm finding it.
When are Kid's evening live streams?
Whenever he feels like doing an evening live stream.
All right, okay, I got the link right over here. Let me bring it on screen.
Which is actually pretty often lately.
Yeah, how does he even have time to do any of this shit?
All right, let me share my screen here real quick, and we'll run it. So, Kira, get ready, babe. You're gonna laugh. You're going to laugh your ass off. This is what this other guy, unfortunately, the cops arrested him for the same reasons. He was out enjoying a succulent Chinese dinner.
Is the charge eating a meal? A succulent
It's not up yet.
American Express investigator followed.
Oh, it's not up yet.
One of
Rewind it, Jerry.
Oh, rewind it? Okay.
What is the charge? Eating a meal?
Oh, shit. Sorry, Ed.
Oh, I didn't add it in. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I hadn't added it to the stream. Hold on. One more time. All right, here we go. Wait, we're like over. Yeah. Hold on. All right, everybody, take your hands off the screen. All right.
I don't have my hands on the screen. I'm just watching.
It's Ed. I blame Ed. All right.
I didn't do it.
All right. Hold on. Everyone's hands off. Here we go. Here's the video for Kira to enjoy.
Okay. Here we go.
So this guy was mistakenly arrested while he was eating a Chinese dinner, and this is what happened at the time.
Is the charge eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
American Express investigator followed a man he thought was one of Queensland's most wanted to a Valley restaurant. Minutes later, police had the business surrounded, then sent in a delegation.
Under arrest. I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
What happened?
That is funny. It does look like Kit, though.
So that's the whole. I know that joke needed a lot of setup, but once you know about once you know what preceded it and how. So what was funny to me was that I never knew until I saw on Twitter people were referencing that succulent Chinese meal and the guy getting arrested. So yeah, the fact that Kid has played that many times before on his show and we come across this.
Yep.
And you do know that Kit loves Chinese food, so anyway.
I do know that.
God, what a detour we've taken, but it was worth the laughs.
It is succulent.
It's that kind of week, you guys. And Pat asked like it's already Tuesday. When I say week, I mean like more like, since like Friday to today's been tough. Yeah, it is a weird Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, 100%. Eating a succulent Chinese meal.
All right. One of these days, I know Kit's going to nail me with something, so I guess I've asked for it. But enough fun at Kit's expense. We love him.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kit. Sometimes I like when we do Twitch together, Kit and I. Sometimes I'm like, I wonder if people think I'm mean to Kit.
I have to start watching those.
I definitely tease him a decent amount. So.
Gene, I don't have the clip queued up again, but I know Kira wants to move on to the other stories. You guys can find it on YouTube. The clip, just Google search "Democracy Manifest" and you will find the whole clip. It's hilarious.
Yeah, or like I said, just look for one of Kit's recent evening live streams, and you can find him. He usually plays it at the end.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'll check it out because that is pretty funny actually. But speaking of funny, not funny, that was a bad segue.
More cop stuff.
More cop stuff. Funny, not funny. But this is interesting. Here we go.
Wait a minute.
I look at this town and I don't like what I see anymore.
It's definitely a cop watch story.
It is completely. Here we go.
That breaking story from inside Chicago Police's Homan Square facility. A man snuck in through a fire escape during police training and then picked up guns. I want to show you now a live picture from Chopper 2 over the Homan Square facility on the west side as it looks right now.
A lot of developments in the past hour. The police superintendent just spoke about what happened. Let's get right to CBS 2's Tara Molina at police headquarters. Tara, the man who grabbed the gun ended up getting shot and wounded.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I thought this was
he
the. I thought
rushed to
that
the
this was.
hospital in critical condition. We're now told his injuries.
What are you saying, Jerry?
I jumped the gun. I thought that this was the story about police encrypting radio communications. So sorry for the premature cop watch.
No, we're almost there.
Well, this is also something to watch. But I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this story, and I'm gonna do that one. I want to squeeze both of them in before I conclude the show.
In 14 minutes.
And well, we are powerful people. Okay, we can do this. Here we go.
Are not life-threatening. The Chicago police officer injured in all of this sprained their ankle. They were not injured in the shooting. But how was a man able to breach a secured Chicago police facility and grab 2 guns?
Is anybody else super distracted by how many times she blinks, or is it just me?
Are we sure that this guy wasn't one of Kit's clones?
No. Why would he run toward the danger?
About to pass out from lack of oxygen.
And yes, Gene,
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
The clones, they are everywhere.
And this woman's blinking. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, no, she's blinking the whole time. That's how Kit can do so many shows and live stream constantly. There's so many of them.
The clones that got out of the lab.
Notice how you never see Kit and his clone in the same place, though? What the fuck's that about?
I think they do. They have they clock in and clock out. They got shifts.
I'm telling you, it's got to be this year's Halloween costume all across Chicago, like V for Vendetta.
Jerry,
be
careful over there.
If you look at the Guy Fawkes mask, it does look a little bit like Cabello.
They just need to... I'm dying. I need oxygen. All right, so we know it wasn't one of Kit's clones that broke into Home and Square. Let's move on.
It was one of Kit's clones. We've solved the mystery, except the mystery has already been solved because this guy's in the hospital. But all right, back to Blinky McBlinkface. Here we go.
Guns once inside. Chicago police just addressed
now
that.
She's not going to
Police say the man approached Home and Square, asking the guard where he should pick up personal property. Home and Square is used as a base for police special operations, CPD specialized units.
That's special operations. It's Chicago's Guantanamo Bay is what it is.
Wait, hang on a second. Wait, I was like, Home and Square. Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's where they take suspects and interrogate them.
Yeah, that's the black site that they.
That's the black box site under Raman. Yep, that Raman Manual.
Now it's a training facility.
Yeah, training facility to beat up suspects and people that are being interrogated.
Yeah, advanced interrogation. I don't know if advanced interrogation happens there, but I do know people are held there.
Enhanced interrogation
and not told why they're there. So those stories exist. Check them out. But they don't mention that in this.
Of course not. Just like Kira, just like they didn't mention last week when the Guardian broke the story about toxic levels in Chicago's water. It wasn't on the front page of the Sun-Times or the Tribune. Why isn't this reporter referencing? Oh, by the way, this was a black.
I know, that.
Yes, we're entirely befuddled as to why this guy was able to scale their fire escape without anybody noticing until he entered the 5th floor entrance, because nobody knew this place existed until a year ago.
No, actually, it was. People have known about this facility for longer. It's just usually those that are reporting on it are not your mainstream news sites. Yeah, actually, I think it was the Guardian that broke the story on what they were doing at Home and Square.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what year that was. Do you?
Well, I know.
I remember reading that and being alarmed.
I remember back in the day when I was helping Amara Enya with her mayoral campaign, and that was 2015. When I was working on media production for her, that was a big story that, you know, they were sharing. It's like, why is anybody paying attention to this under Rahm Emanuel's, you know, tyrannical reign? Anyway.
Yeah, no, I did want to make sure to mention that this Home and Square facility has a much darker history than this story would.
It's clone.
And evidence and property is held there. But the man didn't go to that part of the facility, instead going to another part of the building where he snuck in through a fire escape on the side of the building like this one during a police tactical training on the 5th floor. Police say the door was propped open, and once inside, police say he grabbed at least one gun being used in the training and pointed it at the officers involved. One officer shot the man. The gun he grabbed was not loaded with live rounds. He didn't fire a live round. But how was he able to not only get into the building through a propped open door, but grab a police weapon? Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown just addressed that in a press conference. Take a listen.
He climbs the stairwell 5 floors and goes to the 5th floor on the exterior of Home and Square.
And you have no security cameras to show anybody outside your building.
This is such a crock of shit.
Yeah, very straight.
There is SWAT training occurring on that 5th floor, and the exterior door to that training is propped open because there's no windows or ventilation on that particular floor. So that door is propped open for ventilation. That's how this person enters from the exterior fire escape stairwell.
So
all
they're
that money
doing
for all the
SWAT
police
drills.
Yeah,
They're
all
doing
that money for
SWAT
police
drills.
training.
Go ahead.
And they all that money for police training, and they still can't secure their own black ops site. It's like the fucking Keystone Cops.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking they're doing SWAT drills. Right?
On the 5th
And
floor?
so
How do you
on the
do
5th
SWAT
floor,
drills on a 5th floor?
where there's no air circulation? Like, that seems a little dangerous, if you're asking me.
Hanky. What does that mean, bitch? Hanky. Oh, strange. Weird.
Yeah, it's a little hinky.
Yeah.
There were more than 20 people on that floor at the time of this training and this incident, and we've just learned that 3 of them are involved in the mayor's security team. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability is currently investigating all of this, and we're told that the propped open door on the 5th floor and the risk involved in that will be a part of that investigation. We'll be back at 5 with more on this story, but for now, reporting live outside police headquarters, I'm Tara Molina, CBS 2 News.
And then several months after the next mayoral election, we'll get the results of COPA's report, where they recommend something that the city council and the mayor and the chief of police will all ignore.
Thank you, Ram of Japan, for that Home and Square black ops site.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
Yep.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
You can't catch me, suckers. I'm in Japan.
And you know what you're alluding to, Ed, was another story that's actually that I'm not going to get too thoroughly into, that's in our show notes that I was going to be covering in regards to how COPA is making these recommendations and they are being largely ignored. And it's like, oh, you had something to say? Oh, cool. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And that is very much going on. And you can check that out in the show notes, because there was another story in regards to policing that covered that, and some of the consequences for 12 officers who had been found using excessive force during the protests in 2020. So I did want to quickly touch, because I think it's really important before we close out, and also I like closing out on time, so we're going to be fast about this. But yeah, police are moving to encrypted communication now. Radio communication, it's already begun. The Chicago Police Department is moving all of its radios to digitally encrypted channels by the end of the year, limiting access to one of the few ways the public can best monitor police activity. Journalists have had a long tradition, of course, as we all know, listening to police radio traffic to know when breaking news is occurring and to get to the scene of an unfolding event.
They're covering up their tracks is what they're going to do.
Of course they are.
We covered this extensively tonight over with Kit in relation. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unwrap here. On one hand, law enforcement is now starting to use apps that are mining all of our data from our smartphones to track people without warrants who haven't even committed crimes. On the flip side of it, the police are doing this. They're going to start encrypting their police band so we can't follow what the fuck they're doing.
That's right. That's right. And that's a great point, Jerry, you know, that it's like it's going in one way for one group of people, and it's going in a complete opposite way for, you know, the authorities.
We are all now enemies of the state. It's like that Will Smith, Gene Hackman movie. Mm-hmm. We're being monitored. We're being followed. It's Orwellian. It is Orwell's 1984 has completely arrived now. They don't have to be transparent while they're using technology to monitor the rest of us. It's a surveillance state. Well, we always said it's becoming one. It is one. It's not becoming one. It is one.
Yep, we're here. We have arrived, everybody. And just to give you an idea, the city began the process in 2017 to secure the public safety radios and prepare to migrate from analog encrypted channels to digitally, according to the Office of Emergency Management and Communication. And OEMC receives anywhere from 7,300 to more than 13,000 calls a day. So that is a big loss.
And you know what they're also saying, though, Kira? Well, we have to limit these police bands because occasionally there'll be some rogue broadcaster on there that puts one of our officers in danger. Really? One of the officers, like over at Home and Square, who left the fucking door open so someone could climb the fire escape and come in? That's how badly trained your force is, that you can't determine something on your radio band that's hinky, as opposed to allowing the public and journalists to have transparency regarding what you're doing, so we can try to build trust with the police department, not continue to see you guys just shutting shit down. So there is not only no transparency, there's no accountability.
Absolutely. And that lack of transparency, I mean, regardless of what you choose to do as someone who is in charge, right? And that transparency builds a foundation of distrust, 100%. And we are seeing the results of that distrust in the system all over the country.
And they don't care. That's the thing, Kira. They don't care. They don't realize that, you know, sooner or later, keep it up, everybody, and you'll be dealing with this.
Take your torches and go!
Yep. Absolutely. And all of this covering up, regardless of what you're saying it's for, a lack of transparency just builds distrust, and distrust is a recipe for violence. I mean, and that's, distrust is a recipe for anxiety, which is a recipe for violence. So I think that this is a bad idea, but I did want to make sure to update our viewers on that as well. And of course, you can see the whole story in our show notes, and find any other research that I was looking at.
Or also tune
into
it. Sorry, Kira.
No,
also tune into today's Hardlands Media Show that I co-hosted with Kit. The entire last segment was about this, and we had the time to go into it in more depth.
Perfect. Yeah, 'cause I cut us off at 9:30. It's a school night, okay? And I have a Manhattan with my name on it.
And you know, it's our fault. Ed and I were just having too much fun here to like throw the stories off.
Fault. No.
Yes!
I would certainly prefer to have a good time.
Me too.
Also, go to if you go to our Redbubble merch shops.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You can use the promo code ChangeItUp30 for 30% off site-wide of our merch, guys. And I mean, The Chicago Corner coffee mug is my favorite coffee mug that I use almost every single day. I use that mug.
Awesome.
Yeah. So check us out. We have all kinds of really fun merch, peg leg. It's, again, let me look up what the promo code is. It is Change It Up 30. All one word, all caps. I don't know if the caps matter, but Change It Up 30. Go to our merch store. This goes through 11:59 on September 28th, so tomorrow.
Yeah, so end of the day tomorrow, you can get your I Swear on the Ghost of Peg Leg Sullivan Chocolate Cows Exist hot cocoa mug with flavor improving technology.
Speaking of Peg Leg Sullivan, who I think we're going to have him on the show when, Ed, to discuss the original Chicago fire.
Yeah,
not the Chicago fire, not this Chicago fire.
Gary, he keeps bugging me about Columbus Day Eve. And I'm like, well, that's when in like a week or two.
No, I got to see that background again. Oh my God.
All right, here we go, everybody. Here we go.
I got to see it. Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
I'll send it to you, Kira. You can use it as desk. You can use it to inspire yourself before every broadcast as desktop wallpaper.
Is so good. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Go to our merch store. Buy our merch. Think about us in the mornings when you're sipping your coffee. Wear us to cover up your abdomen. Whatever it is you're using our merchandise for. Please get it for 30% off before midnight tomorrow. For the love of God.
For the love of God. And make sure that you enjoy that succulent Chinese meal.
We got another $1. No. It's like my toddler. No.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I have nothing else to share. I don't know if you do, Ed, but when Kira's ready, I will take us back into Space Dock.
All right. And then thank you, Kathy, for another $1. We'll make it worth it. And Jerry, you're going to take us out?
I will take us out.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this really wild ride of a show. I knew it would be. I came in a really funny headspace, so I'm glad that you guys, like I said, grabbed the reins and rode along with us. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday night. Join us this Friday at 7:30 p.m. as we talk about all things Chicago. Peace.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.